All right, welcome back, and this is the next part of our video discussion. And I hope that you will finish the entire video and learn something from our discussion. Okay, so here it is, the next part of our video lesson. Okay, so enjoy. So with all of those uh, data that are being collected from us. The question now is, how can we structure the kind of data that we give out? Okay, so we are going to explore the different types of data. Okay, we all know the fact that leaving a larger digital footprint than ever before creates many new types of data that can be analyzed. Right? Remember, I told you that we are leaving a digital footprint. And that footprint leaves a lot of breadcrumbs, a lot of data that can be analyzed. And all this data is coming into us in an unstructured form. When we talk about unstructured form, we are talking about data that has no hard proof structure. Like you can put this in a grid, right? Like a spreadsheet. So the rows are the data, the columns are the titles. No, that is not how big data works. That's why it is very unstructured. Big data generates a lot of data. These are in the form of pictures, right? So pictures don't have really structure, right? Videos, we can categorize videos, but videos don't have structure. They could have length, they could have size, they could have uh, uh, how clear the videos are, right? Then we also have audio conversations. When you open up your messenger and call somebody, or go into a Zoom meeting or Google Meet meeting, conversations. Then we have commands that we issue with our phones, with our computers, and SMS communications. These are the volume of data that floats around. This unstructured data is bigger, more unwieldy, and more challenging to analyze, which where advances in computing power and other developments like artificial intelligence will be discussed as we go along. Okay, but the bottom line is big data is very challenging to analyze. We cannot do that by a simple uh, mind alone, right? We need a tool to analyze this, and that is where artificial intelligence come in. So these are the different kinds of data that we generate day in and day out. The first one is what we call activity data. What is activity data? This is the record of your activities or actions that you either do online or in the physical world. Okay, online, you order food from Grab. That is an activity data. Online, you browse through your Facebook. That is an activity data. In the real world, your activity data would be your work, your exercise, right? Your transportation, going to the grocery. That is an activity data. Another kind of data is what we call the conversation data. Conversation data doesn't apply to an out loud conversation, right? Not just by talking with each other. It can also refer to any conversation you may have in any format, from SMS to chat message, from email, even to social media posts, right? So when you chat with somebody online, you are actually giving out conversation data, and we all know how big conversations can get. The other kind of data that we also give out is the photo and video data. Our ever-increasing attachment to our smartphones and the commonplace use of CCTV cameras means that we are creating more photo and video image than ever. You could just imagine a lot of CCTV footage are now on the internet. We also have, pictures. Anywhere you can stand, sit, or find a place where you can take a picture, people will take a picture. And that in itself is already a data. Then we have sensor data. Simply put, it's like your GPS, right? How come uh, Grab knows where to deliver your food, right? How come uh, your app can tell you what's the nearest restaurant, the nearest fast food from your location? That is because there is sensor data being given out that we use every day. So that is your sensor data. So going back to our discussion earlier, tell me what kind of data is being generated here, okay? All right, let's begin. Bringing your cell phone with you. What do you think is the data that is generated here? Activity? Communication? Right. Sensor data, right? Your GPS is active. So it knows where you are. It can tell you your location. No? So sensor data. How about paying your coffee with your contactless debit card? That is right, activity data. How about reading your news in your mobile device? Correct, activity data. Checking on your friend's Facebook status? Activity data. How about chatting? Correct, it's conversation data. How about shopping online? Activity data. How about posting on Instagram? Photo data, right? Anything that you use with your pictures. Okay. But the moment you react to that photo or you comment to a photo, what is it? It's an activity data, right? The comments that you post, the reaction, that's already activity data. How about doing an exercise and monitoring your physical status? It's activity data. How about ordering food from Grab? Activity data. How about watching a movie in Netflix? Activity data. So there you have it. We have lots and lots of activities, or I mean data that we can generate. If you look at that, that's just 10 frames. But I know that there are more, so much more data that we generate beyond these 10 frames, right? Okay. So how is big data being put to use? How do we make use of big data? Well, most likely you, after learning about big data, you would start to freak out, right? Why? Because there is an increasing amount of data available in our everyday actions. Can you imagine just taking out your cell phone? There's already data there. Opening your email, there's already data there. Sending email, receiving email, chatting, looking at Facebook, posting comments, clicking that like button. You know, there is already a bigger amount of data out there. And most of us would have that fear. Are we giving too much data or information that this data might be used against us? So that freaks out a lot of people nowadays about these things. But on a good side, right, you have to understand that big data is transforming our world. Yes, they are. Big data is changing the way we look at the world. Big data is making our everyday lives more easier and convenient. I mean, what if there's no big data in this time of pandemic? I'm very sure the resources or probably the advancement will not happen in 10 years time, right? But with big data, it is making things, thank God for big data, because now we can actually say COVID-19 will not stay long because of this information. Big data projects are making real difference. When I mentioned about that, in the area of healthcare, environment, food production innovations, big data plays a difference. So to give you an idea, let's look at some of these videos. How can big data be an opportunity for healthcare? Let's look at this.
We're really excited by what we think technology is going to do to the healthcare system. Qualia Health is a software platform that we're building. What we are doing on a daily basis is trying to understand data and trying to look at how to analyze that in different ways. We take data from sensors that an individual has around them in their life, whether that's things we can collect from their phone, their pedometer, scales, blood pressure cuffs, and we use that data as a baseline to start a conversation with them. And what we can do with that is get a sense of how your overall health is doing. It's an iOS app that you eventually would download through the App Store, and that's just our first step really to do user testing.
Quantitative insights. We have a computer-based tool that assists radiologists in making better detection and diagnostic decisions regarding breast cancer. And the product is based on technology that was developed here at the University of Chicago, and we're now bringing that product to the commercial marketplace. Our purpose is to bring that data together in a meaningful way so that clinicians can actually use it for their patients. So today, there are very rudimentary analysis done to aid the radiologist in making their diagnostic decision. We go one step farther. We provide a reference to a known database. That database has known outcomes that are biopsy proven. So we give the radiologist the confidence that now they can compare this current case to a set of reference cases, and that helps them in making their diagnosis. We've been able to demonstrate improved cancer detection, but also improvements in terms of false positives as well. This large data warehouse, data mining opportunity is a very big part of what we see in the future.
These technologies really for the first time are enabling us to see how an individual is trending over much longer periods of time. There's new sensors coming on board on a daily basis, pedometers, different ways to measure your health, different kinds of tests that you can do that you were never able to do before, which are really exciting for us.
So that is in the area of healthcare alone, right? So the opportunity is very vast in terms of big data, no, for our healthcare. Now let's look at how big data can help us in our weather predictions.
Big storms might be a little scary, but truly cataclysmic weather can be downright devastating. Economic losses from hurricanes, floods, typhoons, and other horrible stuff top $200 billion annually. And the impact is felt everywhere, in industries ranging from tourism to agriculture, fishing, and air travel. In fact, more than a third of global GDP is affected by natural disasters. The scariest part about climate change for business is not the increased severity of storms, but an increasingly unpredictable world where storms catch everyone by surprise. So while politicians and scientists spent the last couple decades deciding if climate change was real or not, the business and tech worlds turned to a new kind of cloud for weather predictions. This big data revolution, with its massive storage farms and supercomputers, has spawned a rapidly growing world of hyperlocal, real-time forecasting. Take Superstorm Sandy, for example. 3 days before the storm hit, forecasters were able to determine landfall within 10 miles of its actual location, which allowed millions of people plenty of time to prepare and evacuate. Now roll the clock back to 1970, when the National Hurricane Center's landfall predictions were only accurate within 518 miles. By 1990, that number improved to 345 miles. But that's still the distance between Philly and Boston. So yeah, big data has basically turned weathermen into magicians. Even the White House has caught wind of big data. President Obama launched climate.data.gov in March 2014 as a tool to help web developers create the next breakthrough in weather predictions. Google joined the cause by committing 1,000 terabytes of storage for satellite images and climate models. Vulnerable industries, big and small, now have access to a wide range of tools that monitor live weather patterns and make strategic decisions. These decisions might be something big, like rerouting ships to safer ports, or relatively little stuff, like alerting a restaurant that it's a good time to stock up on lettuce before the big drought. Most scientists now agree that the weather is only getting messier. Storms are getting bigger, and they are showing up in some pretty unlikely places. So while the clouds get more unruly, there is a chance that the cloud arrived just in time to ensure that getting caught out in the rain will become a thing of the past.
So there you have it. Big data can be used to predict weathers. At the same time, can give us the opportunity to prepare for future disasters, right? Hopefully, in the near future, we can already predict earthquakes, probably, or volcanic eruptions, right? So all of this because of big data. How about using big data to solve food insecurity? All right, let's look at this.
Hi there. Did you know that the world is facing an imminent food crisis? Farmers themselves are one of the most vulnerable populations. 70% of the world's extreme poor are farmers. But smart use of data can change this status quo. Data and technology can solve constraints that many farmers face. Governments and their partners have collected data on farmers for decades. More recently, companies are doing the same. Satellites, remote sensors, and drones can now easily capture data from farms like plant and soil conditions. It's becoming clear that this data can be harnessed to help alleviate farmers' difficulties and increase their income. For example, chatbots can use social media data to respond to farmers' questions. When a farmer's data is digital and combined with big data sources such as national identity registries, it can create an even more dynamic digital profile. This digital profile can provide farmers with information specific to his or her farm, empowering them to make better decisions. Projects and governments all over the world are already building dynamic farmer profiles. Let's take a look at one way digital farmer profiles have been deployed. In Philippines, Grameen Foundation's FarmerLink program combines data on agricultural practices with weather data and plant science. Using this data, FarmerLink can prevent devastation. Looking at temperatures and humidity, they were able to see that specific coconut farmers were at risk of a pest infestation. FarmerLink messaged at-risk farmers on their platform with instructions on how to prevent the infestation and sent field agents to train farmers in good agricultural practices. This example just scratches the surface of what is possible when data is accessible. But all too often, farmers' data remains in the hands of service providers, locked up and out of reach. If more service providers work together to make their data accessible for farmers, smallholder farmers could see real improvement in their day-to-day lives. Imagine if an agro input provider, a mobile network operator, and a weather station shared data with a financial service provider. The financial service provider could know what food the farmer is growing and how quickly it will go bad. The financial service provider could then create credit products that respond directly to the farmer's needs. Data and digital tech are changing the face of farming. They have the power to revolutionize the lives of the most vulnerable farmers. We're just beginning to uncover the possibilities. Targeted weather warnings, smarter credit scoring, more inclusive value chains, precise irrigation alerts, all this and more could be possible. How digital farmer profiles are harnessed can change the fate of food insecurity, but the public and private sector must work together to make it happen. So, how are you going to help make the digital farmer profiles to feed the future?
So there you have it. See, big data is the answer to a lot of our problems. It's just that we are still in the infancy stage of adopting big data. The Philippines have not yet scratched the surface of big data analytics, right? So this is the next big thing that we need to, really push for. As information system students, you have the voice to really push for big data analytics, right? So that is very important. So with all of this datafication, okay, let's tie this down. What does this datafication trend means for you and me, right, as technology users? Well, one thing is for sure, the amount of data available to us is only going to increase. It's not getting any smaller. The data is there. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, just like the rice example I showed you earlier, right? And at the same time, how can we harness big data, right? One significant big data trend that has the move towards the delivery of tools and technology is what we call SaaS, or Software as a Service Platform. What is this? Software as a Service Platform means that business operators or business people, small or medium scale business, or even large scale business, has already eliminated the need for infrastructure investment, right? They don't need to buy their own machines now. They don't need to buy hardware equipments for their servers now. All they can do is to rent server space, right? Get software systems and process power from third-party providers, and they would still get the business done, right? So these are the things that actually SaaS is already the product of big data. A long time ago, they did a study on this and said, well, this is the trend that's going towards this direction, and it really is a trend towards servicing. So this is making big data accessible to businesses of any size, right? Software as a service. But the question still remains. If you're a small-scale business, what data do I need here? What about the data itself? What if I'm just a small business and I don't have a mountain of data? What if I don't have a 3.5 million internet searches every minute in my server? What am I gonna do with that? Or how can I make use of big data? Well, simply put, the truth is, it's surprisingly easy to start taking advantage of the explosion of data without gathering it yourself. You don't have to, break your brains gathering the data yourself. Data is already there. Data has already been gathered, and data is just waiting to be harvested, right? How do you do that? Let me show you where you can go from here. Google, right? Google. The answer is Google. I'll just show you 3 things where you can harness data, big data, for your help, for your aid in developing your business strategies. Google. Why? Google has a mountain of data, right? Everything that we search, even if you ask what is the meaning of life, Google has an answer to that. It has useful set of tools for interrogating data. What are these tools? One of those is Google Ads. Google Ads enables you to predict what kind of data or what kind of information people need. That's why every time you search for something, Google can give you a prediction of what you're trying to search because of Google Ads. Then there are Google Tag Assistant, Google Analytics Debugger, then we have the WASP. Actually, there are a lot of Google tools for what we call data analytics. And at the same time, Google function as a central hub for real-time data feeds. Remember the thing I showed you in a minute's time? There are a lot of data that comes and goes from the Google server, and that is real-time. And yeah, you're correct. Google can measure just about everything from weather information to stock market or even share prices. Right? It can measure almost anything. That is Google. You can get big data information from Google. What else? Facebook. Everybody, a lot of us, all of us, almost all of us are into Facebook. Right? This is the world's most popular social media network with more than 2 billion monthly active users worldwide. Every 60 seconds, again in a minute's time, there are 136,000 photos that are uploaded, 510,000 comments are posted, and 293,000 status updates are posted. Come on, do the math. That's just 60 seconds. How much more in an hour, right? Apart from analyzing user data, Facebook has other ways of determining user behavior. Okay, so we have tracking cookies, facial recognition, tag suggestions, like analysis. And Facebook is making use also of artificial intelligence in generating big data information. And finally, we have Twitter. Twitter has 328 million monthly active users that microblog. When we talk about microblog, it's the crossbreed between texting and messaging or posting a status. Why? Because a microblog is around 280 character updates. Okay, so that's what Twitter does. Twitter uses artificial intelligence to determine what tweet recommendations that they can suggest to the users, highlighting the most relevant tweets for every individual. So the tweet recommendation that you receive is very different from the tweet recommendation that I receive or our friends or relatives receive, because that is what artificial intelligence do. We will talk about machine learning somewhere down the road. Artificial intelligence scans and scores thousands of tweets per second to rank them for every user feed, right? So AI does that. And Twitter analytics, right, show insights specific to your Twitter account and activity. So there are, these are just the three. There are many more platforms that we can get big data from, or you can analyze. Twitter has their Twitter Analytics, Google has their Google Analytics, Facebook has their Facebook Analytics, and they are all paid services. All under what? Software as a service. Right? So on a final note, by tapping into data from these big players and partnering with a smaller software as a service provider, any organization can leverage the explosion in data, right, to build a smarter, more successful business. So with that, we end our topic on datafication. We're done with the first topic, and I hope you have learned something. If ever you have questions, right, you can find me at this cell number. This is my messenger and my email. So there you have it, our first topic, and I hope that you have learned something, and I hope that I have piqued your interest into learning our topic for ISTRENDS. I hope you found it interesting, right? Learning about our topic. So with that, I will close our session and see you the next time around for our topic number 2. So have a nice day. See you around.